The message from my mother arrived on a night just like the one I was born, during a lunar eclipse. 32 years ago, that cosmic event branded me as cursed. Tonight, it felt like karma coming full circle. I'm Lauren, and I learned early that being born under a blood moon could turn your own family against you. My phone screen glowed with the text, "We need to talk. The whole family. It's important." My hands trembled as I set down my coffee mug in my office's break room. Evelyn, my best friend since college, noticed immediately. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, pulling up a chair beside me. "Worse, I heard from my mother." Evelyn's eyes widened. She knew everything. The years of being blamed for every family misfortune, the separate plates they made me eat from, the way they'd cross themselves when I entered a room. "What does Bridget want after all this time?" Evelyn asked, her voice tight with protective anger. I showed her the text. "Notice how she doesn't even say hello or how are you? Classic Bridget. You're not actually considering going, are you?" Before I could answer, Adrian knocked on the break room door. "Lauren, the investors are ready for you in the conference room." "Be right there," I called out, then turned back to Evelyn. "Remember when my mother told me I'd never amount to anything because the eclipse marked me? That I should be grateful if I could even hold down a job as a waitress?" Evelyn nodded, her jaw clenching. "Well, I'm about to close a deal that'll make this company worth 9 figures. Some curse, huh?" "Lauren," Evelyn grabbed my hand. "You don't owe them anything." "I know." I stood up, straightening my blazer. But maybe it's time they learned exactly what their cursed daughter became. The investment meeting went perfectly, but my mother's message haunted me throughout. That evening, I sat in my penthouse apartment, staring at old family photos I kept hidden in a drawer. There was Blair, my younger sister, always in the center, always wearing the best clothes. Zion, my older brother, deliberately standing apart from me in every shot. And my parents, Bridget and Leo, their faces tight with worry whenever I was nearby. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Blair. "Mom told me she messaged you. Please come. Things aren't good." I poured myself a glass of wine and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The partial eclipse was visible now, the moon slowly disappearing into shadow. I thought about the last time I saw them, 10 years ago, when I left home with nothing but a backpack and determination. "You'll come crawling back," Leo had shouted after me. "No one will ever hire you. No one will ever trust you. The eclipse marked you." Another message buzzed through. "Lauren, it's Mom. We're meeting Saturday at 7 p.m. at the Grove restaurant. Please come. We need you." I laughed darkly at those last 3 words. Now they needed me. After years of treating me like I was radioactive, I called Evelyn. "They want to meet at the Grove," I said when she answered. "The restaurant you own?" Evelyn asked, surprise evident in her voice. "The very one. They don't know I own it, of course. They probably chose it because it's the most expensive place in town, thinking they'd burden me with the bill." "Oh, this is too perfect," Evelyn chuckled. "What are you going to do?" I watched my reflection in the window, superimposed over the darkening moon. "I'm going to give them exactly what they want, a chance to see what their cursed daughter became. But first, I need to make some arrangements." "You're plotting something," Evelyn said, knowing me too well. "Let's just say Saturday night will be an eclipse they'll never forget." I took another sip of wine. "Call Adrian. We're going to need his help with this." After hanging up, I finally replied to my mother's text, "I'll be there." The response was immediate. "Thank you, Lauren. We have so much to discuss." I bet we do, I thought, watching the last sliver of moon disappear into darkness. They wanted to see me? Fine. But this time, I'd be the one controlling the shadow show. My phone lit up one final time, Adrian confirming he was on board with my plan. Perfect. Saturday night wouldn't just be a family reunion, it would be a reckoning. I raised my glass to the darkened moon, making a toast to the cosmic irony of it all. They'd spent my whole life treating me like a curse. Now they'd learn that their real mistake wasn't in believing in bad luck. It was in creating their own. The Grove's private dining room felt smaller than I remembered, despite being the one who'd designed it. My family filtered in one by one, their expressions a mix of desperation and forced smiles. I'd arrived early, choosing a seat that faced the door, wanting to watch their entrance like the performance it was sure to be. Bridget came first, her silver hair perfectly coiffed but her designer bag noticeably worn. "Lauren, darling." She moved to hug me, but I remained seated, forcing her to awkwardly pat my shoulder instead. Mother, I said coolly, noting how her lipstick slightly trembled. Leo followed, looking older than his 59 years. His once proud stance now stooped with what I assumed were the weights of his poor financial decisions. Blair slipped in behind him, beautiful as ever but with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. Zion arrived last, checking his phone constantly, as if he had somewhere more important to be. Well, Bridget clapped her hands together. Isn't this lovely? All of us together again. Let's skip the pretense, I said, watching the waiter I'd specially selected pour water into their glasses. Why are we here? Blair shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Lauren, can't we just catch up first? It's been 10 years. 9 years, 8 months, and 13 days, I corrected. But who's counting? Leo cleared his throat. You look successful, Lauren. Surprised, Dad? Now, Lauren, Bridget interjected. We know we've had our differences, but family is family. We've been thinking about you so much lately. Thinking about me, or thinking about what I might be able to do for you? The waiter returned, distributing menus. I noticed how their eyes widened at the prices, exactly as I'd predicted. Order whatever you'd like, I said sweetly. I'm quite familiar with the menu. Zion finally looked up from his phone. Right, you work in restaurants or something now? Or something, I smiled, taking a sip of water. Bridget leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. That's actually part of what we wanted to discuss, dear. We've heard you've done quite well for yourself. Define quite well, I said, watching their faces. Well enough to perhaps help family in need? Leo's voice cracked slightly. There it was. I sat back, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. Blair broke first. Dad's business is failing. The house is being foreclosed. They're living with me right now, but I can barely afford my own place, and Zion's startup went bust, Zion finished, his face flushing. We're all kind of struggling. And you thought of me? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. The cursed child? The one who would bring nothing but bad luck? We were wrong. Bridget reached for my hand across the table. I pulled back before she could touch me. We were so wrong, Lauren. About everything. Wrong about what exactly? About making me eat in the kitchen while everyone else had dinner at the table? About refusing to attend my high school graduation because it fell on a full moon? About telling every potential friend that I was marked by evil? Leo's face darkened. We were trying to protect the family. You were protecting yourselves from your own daughter. My voice rose slightly, causing heads to turn at nearby tables. I took a deep breath, regaining composure. Please. Bridget's eyes welled with tears. We need help. We're family. I stood up slowly, smoothing my dress. You know what? You're right. We are family, and family should know everything about each other. So before we discuss any kind of assistance, I think we should have another meeting. Tomorrow night, same time. But Lauren, Blair started. Tomorrow night, I repeated firmly. I'll text you the address, and then you'll learn exactly what your cursed daughter has been up to these past 10 years. We'll be there, Bridget said quickly, hope flickering in her eyes. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and don't worry about the bill tonight. It's been taken care of. As I left, I heard Zion ask, how can she afford this place? I smiled, pulling out my phone to text Adrian. They took the bait. Tomorrow night, we show them everything. His response came quickly. The presentation is ready. They won't know what hit them. Walking to my car, I looked up at the night sky. The moon was full now, no eclipse in sight. Tomorrow, I'd show them that the only real curse in our family was their own blindness. And unlike an eclipse, this revelation wouldn't be temporary. Are you sure you want to show them everything? Evelyn asked, helping me set up the conference room for the evening's revelation. Once you do this, there's no going back. I adjusted the projector screen, making sure it was perfectly centered. They need to see what their cursed daughter built while they were busy avoiding my shadow. Adrian walked in carrying a stack of folders. Financial reports are ready. 10 years of growth, all documented, from your first food truck to your current restaurant empire. The memory of that first food truck made me smile. Remember how we started, Evelyn? $200 in my pocket and your grandmother's recipe book. And now look at you, She gestured around the sleek corporate headquarters. 15 restaurants across 3 states, and the Grove franchise about to go national. Adrian began placing the folders at each seat around the conference table. Don't forget the cooking show deal that's being finalized next week. My phone buzzed, a text from Blair. Where exactly is this place? It looks intense. I sent her the lobby code, then turned to Adrian. Show me the presentation one more time. He dimmed the lights and started the slideshow. The first image appeared, me at 22, standing proudly beside my food truck, Lucky Moon Cuisine painted on its side in bold letters. The irony of the name still gets me. Evelyn chuckled. The presentation continued. Newspaper clippings of my first restaurant opening, magazine features about the youngest restaurateur in the city's history, photos of celebrity clients, revenue charts showing exponential growth. Stop there, I said, pointing to a particular slide. Make sure this one stays up longer than the others. I want them to really see those numbers. Adrian nodded, making the adjustment. They're going to be shocked when they realize you could buy their foreclosed house 10 times over without blinking. The security desk called up. My family had arrived. I straightened my blazer and took a deep breath. Places everyone, I said. It's showtime. Their faces as they entered the conference room were priceless. Bridget's mouth fell open at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Leo's eyes darted around, probably calculating the cost of everything he saw. Zion looked like he'd swallowed something sour. Only Blair seemed genuinely impressed. Lauren, what is this place? This, I gestured around, is my office. Please take a seat. They sat down awkwardly, looking out of place among the pristine modern furniture and state-of-the-art technology. Before we discuss any financial arrangements, I said, standing at the head of the table, I want to show you exactly what I've been doing since I left home. Adrian dimmed the lights again and started the presentation. The food truck photo appeared, and I heard Bridget gasp. You ran a food truck? Leo's voice dripped with disdain. I owned a food truck, I corrected him. The first of many businesses. The slides continued. With each image, each headline, each growth chart, their expressions shifted from confusion to disbelief to dawning realization. When the Grove franchise slide appeared, Zion stood up so quickly his chair rolled backward. Wait, you own the Grove? Where we ate yesterday? I own all 15 Groves, I said calmly, along with several other restaurant concepts across the country. Bridget's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. But how? You were supposed to be cursed, I finished for her. Unlucky? A burden on the family? I walked around the table slowly. Turns out the only curse was the one you created with your own superstitions and cruelty. Adrian advanced to the final slides. My net worth, property holdings, and future projections. The numbers were impossible to ignore. Leo's face had gone pale. All this time, I confirmed. While you were warning people away from me, I was building an empire. While you were ashamed of your cursed daughter, I was being featured in Forbes. While you were living in fear of my bad luck, I was creating my own fortune. Blair started crying softly. Lauren, I'm so sorry. We were so wrong. Yes, you were, I said, turning the lights back on. And now you've come asking for money from the very daughter you threw away. We didn't throw you away, Bridget protested weakly. Really? I opened one of Adrian's folders and pulled out a photo. This is from my college graduation. Notice how none of you are in it, or this one from my first restaurant opening, or my 30th birthday? The silence in the room was deafening. So, I closed the folder with a sharp snap. Now that you know exactly who you're asking for help, let's talk about what you really came here for. I sat down at the head of the table, feeling the weight of a decade of success behind me. Tell me, what makes you think you deserve a single penny of your cursed daughter's fortune? The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Bridget dabbed at her eyes with a tissue while Leo stared at his hands. Zion kept glancing between the presentation screen and me, as if trying to solve a complex equation. Blair broke the tension first. We don't deserve anything from you, Lauren. What we did, what we allowed to happen, it was wrong. Blair, Bridget hissed. Don't. No, Mom. Blair's voice cracked. I've carried this guilt for years. Do you know what it was like watching you isolate my sister, making her eat alone, telling my friends she was dangerous? I hadn't expected this from Blair. She'd always been the golden child, the safe one, the lucky one. You were just a child, Leo started to say. I was old enough to know it was wrong, Blair shot back, and I did nothing. I just watched and stayed quiet because I was scared you'd turn on me too. Adrian cleared his throat. Should I give you all a moment? No, I said firmly. Stay. You and Evelyn are my real family now. You've earned your places at this table. Zion finally found his voice. So that's it? You brought us here just to rub your success in our faces? Actually, I pressed a button on the remote, bringing up news slides. I brought you here to show you exactly what you're asking for. The screen displayed their financial records, Leo's failed business ventures, Bridget's maxed out credit cards, their mortgage defaults, and Zion's bankrupted startup. How did you get these? Leo demanded, face reddening. I had my team do their due diligence before this meeting. You owe nearly $2 million collectively. The house goes to auction next month. Zion's creditors are getting impatient, and Mom's secret gambling habit isn't so secret anymore. Bridget gasped. That's private. Nothing's private when you come asking for money, I replied coolly. Did you really think I wouldn't investigate before this meeting? You had no right. Leo stood up, trying to summon his old authority. I had every right, just like you had every right to treat me like a pariah for 32 years. Sit down, Dad. To everyone's surprise, he did. Here's what's going to happen, I continued, sliding folders across the table. Inside each of these is a proposal, different for each of you, based on what you actually need, not what you want. They opened the folders cautiously, like they might contain snakes. Blair, yours is a small business loan with reasonable terms. Your art gallery idea isn't bad, but you need proper funding and mentorship. Blair looked up, shocked. You knew about that? I know everything. Zion, yours is a job offer. Your coding skills are solid, but you're a terrible businessman. My tech division needs programmers. You'd hire me? Zion's voice was small. I'd give you a chance to earn your way, which is more than you ever gave me. I turned to my parents. And you two, you get a choice. Option 1, I buy the house at auction, you continue living there, paying rent at market rate, no special treatment. Option 2, I help you find and finance a smaller place, something you can actually afford on Dad's pension. You'd do this, after everything? Bridget whispered. Not for free, I said firmly. Each of these offers comes with conditions. First, you attend family counseling, separately and together. Second, you acknowledge publicly how you treated me, including to our extended family who believed all your superstitious nonsense. That's blackmail, Leo protested weakly. No, that's accountability. Third condition, these offers are one time only. You mess up, miss payments, skip therapy, break the contracts, it's over. Forever. Evelyn placed a supportive hand on my shoulder as I stood up. You have 24 hours to decide. The contracts are with my lawyers. Oh, and one more thing. I walked to the door, then turned back. That lunar eclipse you blamed for cursing me? It's actually considered a symbol of revelation, when hidden truths come to light. Funny how that worked out, isn't it? I left them sitting there, staring at their folders, their futures, their failures. Adrian and Evelyn followed me out. That was intense, Adrian said once we were in my office. Think they'll take the deals? Evelyn asked. I looked out at the city lights, remembering all the nights I'd spent alone, believing I was cursed, worthless, unlucky. They'll take them. They don't have a choice. And are you ready for what comes next? Evelyn's question hung in the air. You mean, am I ready to have them in my life again, under my terms? I turned to face my true family, the friends who'd stood by me when blood relatives wouldn't. I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing it for me. Sometimes the best revenge isn't cutting people off. It's showing them exactly what they missed out on, one day at a time. Through the conference room windows, I could see them still sitting there, reading through their folders, their faces painted with the harsh light of consequence. The next morning, Blair showed up at my office unannounced. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she clutched her proposal folder like a lifeline. Your assistant wouldn't let me in without an appointment, she said, hovering in my doorway. I told her I'm your sister, but being my sister doesn't mean automatic access anymore, I finished, gesturing for her to sit. What do you want, Blair? She sank into the chair across from my desk. I stayed up all night reading this proposal. It's more than generous. It's business, I corrected her. Nothing more. Mom and Dad stayed up fighting about it, she continued. Dad wants to reject it, says it's humiliating. Mom's desperate to accept. Zion's already signed his contract. That surprised me. He has? Dropped it off at your lawyer's office first thing this morning. Said something about being tired of failing on his own. I leaned back in my chair, studying my sister's face. The perfect daughter now looked haunted, worn. What about you? I asked. Have you decided? Blair pulled out the contract, already signed. I have questions first. Real ones, not excuses like Mom and Dad are making. Go ahead. Why did you include a clause about me teaching art to underprivileged kids? Because you're talented, Blair, and because those kids need someone who understands what it's like to watch others get all the chances. She flinched. I deserved that. Yes, you did. Lauren, Blair's voice cracked. Last night, after everyone left, I went through my old diaries. Every time I wrote about you, it was always with this mixture of guilt and relief. Relief that they focused their superstitions on you instead of me. Touching, I said dryly. No, let me finish. She straightened up. I was a coward. I watched them destroy your childhood because I was grateful it wasn't mine they were destroying. But you know what the crazy thing is? You're the only one of us who actually made something of yourself. My office door opened and Evelyn walked in, stopping short when she saw Blair. Sorry, she said. Didn't know you had company. It's fine. I waved her in. Blair was just leaving. Actually, Blair stood up. I wanted to say one more thing. I know you're doing all this to prove a point, to show them they were wrong, but I think you're also doing it because somewhere deep down, you still care what happens to us. You're wrong, I said flatly. Am I? You could have just told us no. Instead, you created customized proposals that actually give us chances to improve our lives. That's not revenge, Lauren. That's responsibility. Something Mom and Dad never showed us. Evelyn moved to stand beside my desk, her presence a silent support. The contracts need to be signed by 7 tonight, I reminded Blair. All or nothing. If Mom and Dad don't agree, all deals are void. I know. Blair headed for the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not because I need your money, but because I failed as your sister. I hope someday you can forgive me. After she left, Evelyn perched on my desk. She's right, you know. You could have just shut them down. Don't you start, I warned. My phone buzzed, a text from Adrian. Zion just showed up at IT for orientation. He actually seems eager to prove himself. Another message came through, this one from my lawyer. Your mother and father are here. They want to discuss terms. Well, Evelyn said, reading over my shoulder, looks like they're all falling in line. They're desperate, I replied. Desperate people will agree to anything. Maybe. Or maybe they're finally realizing what they lost was worth more than what they're gaining. I stood up, gathering my things. I need to get to the lawyer's office. Want to watch my parents squirm? Lauren, Evelyn caught my arm. Just be careful. Not of them, of yourself. Revenge can become its own kind of curse. This isn't revenge, I said, echoing Blair's words. It's responsibility. They taught me I was cursed, but I learned I was capable. Now it's time they learned the same lesson. As we rode the elevator down, I thought about Blair's words. Was I doing this because I cared? Or was I simply proving that their curse had backfired, turning their supposed bad luck charm into their only chance at salvation? Either way, I was about to watch my parents sign away their pride in exchange for security. And somewhere in the universe, I imagined that blood moon I was born under was laughing at the irony of it all. The law office felt too small for all the history crammed inside it. My parents sat across the conference table, looking like deflated versions of the people who once towered over my childhood. Bridget's hands shook as she reached for the contract. Leo stared at the table, his jaw clenched. Before you sign, I said, let's be clear about what this means. You'll keep the house, but it's my house. You'll live there, but under my terms. One missed payment, one broken rule, and you're out. We understand, Bridget whispered. Do you? I leaned forward. Because this isn't just about money. You'll attend therapy twice a week. You'll write formal apologies to every family member you warned about my curse. You'll volunteer at the community center where other parents learn not to abuse their children with superstitious nonsense. Leo's head snapped up. We never abused. Making a child eat alone for 16 years isn't abuse? My voice could have frozen fire. Telling her she can't attend her grandmother's funeral because it might curse the ceremony isn't abuse? Try saying that in therapy, Dad. See how it goes. The lawyer, Ms. Parker, cleared her throat. Shall we proceed with the signatures? Bridget picked up the pen, but Leo grabbed her wrist. Wait, I need to know something first. He finally met my eyes. Why are you really doing this, Lauren? Because I can, I replied coldly. No, he shook his head. You could destroy us completely. Instead, you're offering a chance, with conditions that seem designed to fix things. Why? Maybe I want you to live with the daily reminder that your cursed daughter owns everything you have. Maybe I want you to feel what I felt, dependent on someone else's mercy. Bridget started crying softly. We were wrong, Lauren. So terribly wrong. Save it for therapy, I cut her off. Sign or don't sign. I have a business to run. They signed. The moment the papers were finalized, my phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. Zion's first day went well. Kid actually has talent when he's not trying to be the boss. Another message followed, this one from Blair. First art class scheduled for next week. Thank you, Lauren. The papers will be processed by morning, Ms. Parker said, gathering the documents. The first therapy session is scheduled for Thursday. We'll be there, Bridget said quickly, too quickly. Of course you will, I stood up, because if you're not, you'll be looking for a new place to live by Friday. Lauren, Leo called as I reached the door. The lunar eclipse, the night you were born. I turned back. Yes? I was the one who started it all. The superstition. Your mother just followed my lead. I was scared. Scared of having a daughter born on such a dark night. Scared of what it might mean. But I was wrong. The darkness wasn't in you. It was in me. For a moment, just a moment, I felt that little girl again. Desperate for her father's approval. I pushed the feeling away. Save it for therapy, Dad. You've got a lot of sessions ahead to work through your fears. Outside, Evelyn waited in my car. How did it go? They signed, just like I knew they would. And how do you feel? I looked back at the building where my parents were probably still sitting, shell-shocked by how completely their lives had changed. I feel nothing and everything. They're going to hate living under my rules, my control, just like I hated living under theirs. But you're giving them a chance to change, Evelyn pointed out. I'm giving them what they never gave me, an opportunity to prove they can be better. My phone buzzed again. A message from the family group chat Zion had created. Zion, first day done. Lauren's company is incredible. Blair, art supplies arrived for the classes. Still can't believe this is happening. Bridget, we signed. Lauren, thank you for not giving up on us completely. Leo, we'll do better this time, I promise. I didn't respond. Promises were easy. Change was hard. They'd learn that in therapy. Take me back to the office, I told Evelyn. I need to check on Zion's progress, review Blair's art program budget, and make sure the property transfer for the house is processing. Look at you, Evelyn smiled, taking care of everyone, even after everything. I'm not taking care of them, I corrected her. I'm making them take care of themselves. There's a difference. But as we drove away, I couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, breaking the curse meant more than just proving them wrong. Maybe it meant giving them the chance to be right, finally, after all these years. 3 months passed. I sat in my office reviewing the weekly reports, Zion's performance evaluations, Blair's art program attendance, my parents' therapy session notes. Everything looked perfect on paper. Too perfect. Adrian burst in without knocking. We have a situation. What kind of situation? Your father's at the Grove. He's drunk, telling everyone who will listen about how his cursed daughter is controlling their lives. My stomach clenched. Get the car. When we arrived at the Grove, Leo was standing on a chair in the main dining room, wine glass in hand. Bridget pulled at his sleeve, trying to get him down. My daughter thinks she can buy our love back, he announced to the horrified diners. She thinks money can erase what we did. Dad, I said sharply, Get down. He spun toward my voice, nearly falling. There she is, the cursed child who became queen. Are you happy now, Lauren? Are you satisfied? Security, I called out, but kept my eyes on Leo. Clear the dining room. As guests were escorted out, Leo finally stepped down from the chair. His eyes were red, wild. I can't do it anymore, he slurred. The therapy, the confessions, the constant reminder that we ruined everything. Leo, please, Bridget begged. You're going to ruin this too. That's the point, he shouted. I want to ruin it. I want her to kick us out, take it all away. At least then we'd have our pride. Pride? I laughed bitterly. Is that what you call it? The pride that made you abuse your daughter? The pride that's making you drunk in my restaurant? Your restaurant, he spat. Everything's yours now. Our home, our lives, our dignity. You gave up your dignity long before I took control, I said coldly. The moment you decided a lunar eclipse meant your daughter was cursed, you lost everything that mattered. Blair and Zion burst in, obviously called by Bridget. Dad, what are you doing? Blair cried. Getting free, Leo stumbled. I'd rather be homeless than live under her power. Zion stepped forward. Like we lived under yours? At least Lauren's giving us chances to succeed. All you gave us was fear. Don't you dare defend her. Leo swung around. She's destroying our family. No, Dad, I said quietly. You destroyed our family. I'm just showing you the wreckage. Lauren, Bridget stepped between us. Please, he's drunk. He doesn't mean... Yes, I do, Leo roared. I meant every word back then, and I mean them now. You were born cursed, Lauren, and now you're cursing us right back. The room fell silent. Even in his drunken haze, Leo seemed to realize he'd crossed a final line. Well, I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. Thank you for making this easy. You've violated the contract. You have 24 hours to vacate my house. Lauren, no. Blair grabbed my arm. Please, he's just... Showing his true colors? I pulled away. Good, I was starting to think I was the only one who could see them. You can't do this, Bridget whispered. Actually, I can, and I will. I turned to security. Please escort Mr. and Mrs. Brewer out. They're banned from all my properties. What about us? Zion asked quietly. I looked at my siblings, really looked at them. Blair, who'd been trying so hard with her art programs. Zion, who'd become one of our best programmers. Your contracts are separate. As long as you continue meeting the terms, nothing changes. Leo laughed harshly as security approached. See? Turning my own children against me. That's the real curse. No, Dad, I said as they led him away. The real curse was having a father who cared more about superstition than his own daughter. But don't worry, that curse ends today. After they were gone, Blair collapsed into a chair, crying. Zion stood awkwardly, looking lost. I'll have my lawyers draw up new living arrangements for you both, I said. You won't have to go back to that house. Lauren, Blair looked up, tears streaming down her face. What happens now? I straightened my jacket, already composing emails in my head to my legal team. Now we stop pretending we can fix what was broken 32 years ago. Some curses can't be lifted. They can only be ended. As I walked out of the grove, I heard Zion say to Blair, maybe this is for the best. Maybe we all needed to see who Dad really is. Maybe they did, but I'd known all along. And now, finally, the truth had eclipsed the lies they'd built their lives around. The night air felt different as I stood on my office balcony, watching another lunar eclipse paint the sky. Evelyn handed me a glass of champagne. Your new cooking show premieres in 10 minutes, she said. Nervous? Not about the show. I took a sip. Blair's art exhibition opens tomorrow. She invited them. Are they coming? No, they're living in a small apartment across town. Dad's still bitter, Mom's still enabling. I turned as Adrian joined us. But that's not my problem anymore. Speaking of problems, Adrian held up his tablet. Zion's team just landed the Miller account, biggest tech contract we've had. He did? I couldn't hide my surprise. Turns out your brother's pretty brilliant when he's not trying to prove something to your father. The TV inside my office flickered to life. Promotional ads for my new show, Lucky Moon Kitchen, started playing. You really leaned into the moon theme, huh? Evelyn smiled. Why not? Time to rewrite the narrative. My phone buzzed. A text from Blair. Watching the premiere with Zion. So proud of you, sis. Thank you for not giving up on us. Another message followed from Zion. Dad's going to hate seeing you on national TV. Good. Your siblings really turned around, Adrian observed. They're trying. That's more than our parents ever did. The show's opening sequence began. Me in a professional kitchen, moonlight streaming through windows, the camera capturing the moment I'd dreamed of since I first started cooking in that lonely kitchen of my childhood. In every family, my voice narrated on screen, there are recipes passed down through generations. But in my family, the only thing passed down was fear. Tonight, I'm going to show you how I turned that fear into flavor, that curse into cuisine. Bold, opening with your story, Evelyn said softly. People deserve the truth, every ingredient of it. My office door opened. Blair and Zion walked in, carrying takeout bags from the Grove. Surprise, Blair called out. We couldn't let you watch alone. How did you get past security? I asked, but I was smiling. I might have programmed us permanent access, Zion admitted. You can revoke it if you want. I didn't want to. For the first time, having my siblings near felt right. Mom called, Blair said quietly as we settled in to watch. Asked if we could convince you to give them another chance. And I told her that chances aren't given, they're earned, just like you taught us. On screen, I was teaching viewers how to make the first recipe, my grandmother's mooncakes, reimagined with a modern twist. Remember these? Zion asked. You used to make them even when they made you eat alone. I remember you sneaking taste when Mom wasn't looking, I replied. I remember wanting to invite you to eat with us but being too scared, Blair added. I'm not scared anymore. The show continued, but we were barely watching now. Years of unspoken words tumbled out, memories both painful and precious surfacing like stars appearing after an eclipse. I have something to show you, I said, pulling out 2 envelopes. New contracts. No conditions this time, no therapy requirements, no mandatory programs. What's the catch? Zion asked. The catch is you have to choose, really choose, to be part of this family we're building. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Blair opened her envelope. You're making us partners in the business? Small shares, I clarified. But yes, you've both proven yourselves. This isn't about control anymore, it's about creation. What about Mom and Dad? Zion asked. Their story is their own now. We're writing a new one. On screen, the episode was ending. The camera panned out to show the moon through the kitchen window as I delivered the closing lines. They say some people are born under lucky stars, others under cursed moons. But I've learned that the only real curse is believing you don't have the power to change your story. So tonight, let's cook up something magical together. To new stories, Evelyn raised her glass. To chosen family, Adrian added. To the curse that became a blessing, Blair and Zion said together. I looked at my siblings, my friends, my empire built from the ashes of superstition, and raised my own glass. To the moon that showed us who we really are. Outside, the eclipse was ending, the moon emerging whole and bright. Some might call it a sign, but I knew better now. The only signs that matter are the ones we choose to follow, and I'd finally found mine. Not in the stars above, but in the family I'd built right here on Earth.